Toy Story wasn't just the first fully computer-animated feature film, it was the gamble that reshaped cinema forever. What audiences saw was magic, talking toys brimming with life. But behind the screen, chaos. Entire sequences nearly deleted forever. Voice actors replaced mid-production. Technical meltdowns that threatened the movie's very existence. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 20 weird facts about Toy Story, secrets that even die-hard Pixar fans may not know. From casting shakeups to near disasters in rendering labs, these stories reveal the brutal, brilliant struggle that brought Woody and Buzz to life. And wait until you hear the bonus fact. It's a behind-the-scenes detail so shocking, it nearly ended Pixar before it began. Let's dive in. 1. Woody was almost the villain. Before becoming the loyal cowboy we know, Woody was written as a cruel, sarcastic tyrant. In early drafts, he insults the other toys, mocks their loyalty, and even throws Buzz out the window deliberately. Pixar's test screening of this version was disastrous. Audiences hated him. Tom Hanks reportedly refused to voice such an unlikable character, pushing the studio to rework Woody's personality. What emerged was a flawed but lovable leader. Without this rewrite, Woody might have been remembered as one of cinema's most despised characters instead of one of its most beloved. It wasn't Pixar magic yet. It was nearly Pixar's greatest mistake. 2. Tom Hanks didn't record alone. Unlike traditional animated films, Pixar had Tom Hanks, Woody, and Tim Allen, Buzz, record many of their lines together in the same booth. The goal was chemistry, real banter that felt alive. Hanks later revealed that their sparring, improvising, and overlapping dialogue gave scenes raw energy. Most animated features rely on splicing together separate recordings, but here the tension of two actors competing for space made the rivalry pop. The laughter, the sharp timing, it wasn't artificial. It was two performers genuinely playing off each other. That decision elevated the script, turning static dialogue into an electrifying showdown. 3. A computer bug nearly deleted the film. In 1998, while finishing Toy Story 2, a stray command wiped almost the entire film from Pixar's servers. But what most fans don't know is that Toy Story 1995 faced a similar early risk. Animators sometimes accidentally overwrote key sequences while rendering. One slip of code could erase weeks of work. Pixar had no reliable backup system at the time. According to technical directors, they were one command away from disaster, daily. It wasn't cutting-edge tech. It was survival on the bleeding edge. Every shot you see on screen is the result of a team walking a technological tightrope. 4. Disney almost shut it down. In 1993, Disney executives watched Pixar's early reels and hated them. Woody was too mean, Buzz too boring, and the story too dark. Jeffrey Katzenberg ordered the production paused and demanded rewrites. The team had 2 weeks to reimagine the film or face cancellation. The crisis became known internally as Black Friday. Animators worked around the clock, rewriting character arcs and storyboards to soften Woody and boost Buzz. What seemed like failure became the film's turning point. If Disney had walked away, Toy Story might have vanished as just another abandoned experiment. Instead, it became history. 5. Buzz Lightyear was almost called Lunar Larry. Before Buzz Lightyear, the Space Ranger had a very different name, Lunar Larry. The design was also bizarre, purple spandex, a cape, and a generic superhero look. The team struggled to make him memorable. Then someone suggested honoring Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin. The name Buzz Lightyear clicked instantly, modern, playful, and heroic. Aldrin himself later joked that his grandkids cared more about Buzz Lightyear than his moon landing. Not Larry, not Star Command's Caped Crusader. Buzz Lightyear only became iconic when Pixar fused history with humor. 6. Tim Allen wasn't the first choice for Buzz. Tim Allen's booming voice feels inseparable from Buzz Lightyear, but he wasn't Disney's first pick. The role was initially offered to Billy Crystal. Crystal declined, thinking a toy spaceman sounded silly. Years later, he admitted it was one of the biggest mistakes of his career. After Alan was cast, his sitcom Home Improvement exploded in popularity, and Disney leaned into his growing fame. Alan brought a mix of bravado and insecurity that Crystal himself later said he couldn't have matched. The irony? Crystal eventually redeemed himself by voicing Mike Wazowski in Monsters, Inc. But in 1995, it was Alan who gave Buzz his swagger, and Pixar who turned a near miss into casting perfection. 7. Pixar's animators used their own toys as models. Every detail of the toys in Andy's room came from real-life objects Pixar animators studied obsessively. They raided their kids' toy chests, rummaged through thrift stores, and even borrowed vintage collectibles. Mr. Potato Head, Slinky Dog, and Army Men were licensed, but dozens of background toys were modeled after actual items Pixar staff owned. They even measured how plastic bent under weight and how fabric sagged when sewn into dolls. The authenticity wasn't an accident, it was science. By grounding computer graphics in tactile reality, Pixar gave audiences something their eyes could believe. It wasn't just animation, it was a digital study of childhood itself. 8. The Green Army Men nearly didn't march. Animating the green plastic army men was a nightmare. Their fused legs made realistic walking impossible. The solution? Pixar studied how stop-motion animators had historically moved rigid figures. They decided to make the soldiers waddle, as if their feet were suctioned to the ground. Then, to capture authenticity, they literally strapped real shoes together and had animators walk in them around the studio. The result is a march that feels stiff, yet oddly believable. What audiences see as a gag was, in fact, a technical compromise. Without it, the soldiers would have looked clumsy. Instead, they became one of the film's funniest highlights. 9. Randy Newman almost didn't write the songs. Disney originally wanted a Broadway-style musical in the vein of The Little Mermaid or Aladdin, but John Lasseter fought against it, insisting the film needed something different. Enter Randy Newman, whose dry wit and melancholy style seemed risky. Many executives doubted him, saying his voice was too odd for mainstream animation. Yet Newman's "You've Got a Friend in Me" struck a chord, anchoring the film's emotional core. His score wasn't just filler, it was character. It gave Toy Story its heart. Without Newman, Woody and Buzz might have soared, but they wouldn't have sung their way into memory. 10. Pixar's computers overheated constantly. The rendering power needed for Toy Story was astronomical for 1995. Pixar's machines ran so hot that staff joked they could fry eggs on them. Animators often slept in sleeping bags at the office while waiting for frames to render. Each frame could take up to 30 minutes, meaning a single second of footage required hundreds of hours of computing. Technical director Eben Ostby said the team often prayed the machines wouldn't crash overnight. Today, Toy Story feels effortless, but in 1995 it was powered by sweat, sleepless nights, and fans pointed at overheating CPUs. And before we move on, go ahead and like and subscribe, because the next 10 facts will show you just how close Toy Story came to collapsing and why its legacy almost never existed. 11. Pixar animators hid inside jokes. Everywhere, look closely at Toy Story, and you'll spot Easter eggs that became Pixar tradition. The yellow ball with the red star, originally from the Pixar short Luxo Jr., bounces into Andy's room. The Pizza Planet truck, which would later appear in nearly every Pixar film, makes its debut here. And A113, the classroom number at CalArts, where many Pixar animators studied, shows up on a license plate. These weren't just gags, they were secret signatures, proof that Pixar saw themselves as underdogs, sneaking their fingerprints into Disney's kingdom. Fans now treat spotting these Easter eggs like treasure hunts, but in 1995, they were quiet rebellion coded into pixels. 12. Barbie was supposed to appear. Disney wanted Barbie as Woody's female counterpart, but Mattel refused. The company worried Barbie's neutral identity would be compromised by giving her a fixed voice and personality. That's why Bo Peep became Woody's love interest instead. Ironically, after Toy Story's success, Mattel scrambled to get Barbie into the sequels. By Toy Story 2, she was a breakout comedic character, voiced by Jodie Benson. Ariel from The Little Mermaid. What audiences didn't know? Pixar had pitched her as the ultimate action heroine from the start. Without Mattel's hesitation, Barbie might have been leading toy cavalry charges in 1995 instead of standing by her dream house. 13. Sid's World was based on real Pixar offices. Sid, the terrifying neighbor who tortures toys, wasn't just a villain. His chaotic bedroom was inspired by actual Pixar animators' messy desks, model kits, half-finished projects, even wires tangled around action figures. Pixar's offices were filled with the same anarchic energy. The team exaggerated it, turning Sid's experiments into Frankenstein nightmares. But here's the kicker. Many animators admitted they were Sid as kids, gleefully tearing apart toys to see how they worked. Sid wasn't just a villain, he was Pixar staring at their younger selves. That uncomfortable truth gave his scenes their twisted authenticity. 14. Joss Whedon reshaped the script. Long before Buffy or the Avengers, Joss Whedon was one of Toy Story's key script doctors. Hired by Disney, he infused sharper humor, snappier dialogue, and emotional depth. It was Whedon who suggested giving Buzz the tragic delusion that he was a real space ranger instead of just a toy. That single twist gave the movie its heart, transforming Buzz from generic sidekick into a tragicomic hero. Without Whedon's fingerprints, Toy Story might have been funny, but it wouldn't have been profound. His contribution turned plastic into pathos, and a cartoon into a story about identity and belonging. 15. The opening scene was nearly different. Instead of the playful opening with Andy's imaginative play, early drafts began with a toy factory, showing Woody's origin as a mass-produced doll. Animators even storyboarded sequences of him rolling off an assembly line. But they scrapped it, realizing the factory scene killed the magic. The real heart of Toy Story wasn't where toys came from. It was how kids gave them life. That small creative decision reframed the entire movie. Not a story about products, but about imagination. Not toys as objects, but toys as family. It's why the film still resonates decades later. 16. Toy Story almost skipped theaters. It's hard to imagine today, but Disney originally considered releasing Toy Story as a straight-to-video movie. Executives doubted a fully computer-animated feature could carry a theatrical run. After all, Pixar was an unproven studio, and CGI was considered risky. But once early test footage screened for audiences, the reaction was explosive. People had never seen animation like this. Disney quickly reversed course, throwing marketing weight behind a full theatrical release. The gamble paid off, with Toy Story earning over $360 million worldwide. Not just a success, but the spark that ignited an empire. Had it gone straight to VHS, it might have been remembered as a curiosity, not a revolution. 17. The voice of Andy was discovered by accident. John Morris, who voiced Andy, wasn't a trained child actor. He was discovered when Pixar's casting director overheard him reading aloud while waiting for his mother in the audition office. His natural warmth and imperfect delivery stood out in a sea of polished kid performers. Rather than hire a professional, Pixar wanted Andy to sound like a real kid. Morris delivered exactly that: awkward pauses, giggles, and spontaneous energy that brought Andy to life. It wasn't stagecraft, it was authenticity captured in a microphone. Sometimes the best casting isn't about training, it's about honesty. 18. Pixar nearly bankrupted itself. Making the film. By 1994, production costs were spiraling. Pixar had already poured millions into hardware, software, and staff, but Toy Story wasn't guaranteed to be profitable. Steve Jobs, who had purchased Pixar years earlier, reportedly considered selling the company if the film flopped. Jobs even joked that Pixar was a money pit with no bottom. But the release changed everything. Overnight, Pixar became not just solvent, but legendary. Jobs transformed from near-bankrupt investor to Hollywood power player. What audiences didn't see was how close the studio came to collapsing before Woody ever shouted, "Reach for the sky." 19. The toy's textures pushed technology to the limit. Every toy in Andy's room had a unique surface texture that had to be painstakingly programmed. Woody's fabric shirt, Buzz's glossy plastic, Rex's rubbery skin, all required new rendering techniques. At the time, CGI had trouble distinguishing between reflective and matte surfaces. Pixar's engineers built custom shaders for each toy. Without them, Woody and Buzz would have looked like shiny plastic clones. The detail may seem invisible to casual viewers, but it gave Toy Story its realism. Not just toys moving, but toys feeling like they existed in the real world. A revolution in pixels, hiding in plain sight. 20. The film's ending. Almost changed. The final moving day truck chase is one of Pixar's most thrilling sequences, but early drafts ended with a quiet reconciliation between Woody and Buzz in Andy's room. No action, no fireworks. Disney pushed for a bigger finale, and Pixar reluctantly agreed. The team then storyboarded the chase, packed with rocket blasts, car chaos, and slinky dog tension. The result is cinematic adrenaline. What began as a modest ending became a triumphant finale that cemented Toy Story as not just emotional, but epic. Without that push, audiences might have walked out smiling, but not cheering. Bonus fact: the entire movie was once deleted. Here's the most shocking secret of all. During production, a catastrophic command error nearly deleted the entire Toy Story film from Pixar's servers. Animators watched helplessly as files vanished. The movie was gone. But a technical director working from home had a copy of the film on her personal computer, an unsanctioned backup. That copy saved Toy Story from extinction. Without it, years of work would have evaporated overnight. Not technical wizardry, not studio oversight. Just one person's foresight kept the project alive. The movie that changed animation history existed by sheer luck. Toy Story wasn't just Pixar's first film, it was a gauntlet of disasters, rewrites, and near failures that somehow became a masterpiece. What audiences saw was effortless magic. What lay behind the curtain was chaos, risk, and human resilience. And that's the real legacy of Toy Story. It proved that even when everything almost collapses, imagination can pull through.